My sister held my newborn daughter and whispered, "She'll never know you were her real mother." I was 19, bleeding in a hospital bed, and I'd just signed away my baby to the woman who destroyed my life. What happened next changed everything. My name is Maya, and I'm 32 years old. But this story starts when I was just 17, a scared teenager who made a decision that would haunt me for the next 16 years. Before I continue, if you find this story worth hearing, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with what I'm sharing. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'd love to know who's listening. My sister Rebecca was everything I wasn't. 8 years older than me. She seemed to have her entire life figured out before I even understood what life meant. She graduated summa cum laude from an Ivy League university. She married a successful surgeon named Dr. Marcus Webb. They lived in a colonial house with actual white columns out front, the kind you see in magazines about successful people. Meanwhile, I was the accident baby the one mom had at 38 when they thought they were done having children, the one dad said ruined their retirement plans. I heard him say it once when he thought I wasn't listening. We could have retired to Florida if it wasn't for Maya. Growing up in Rebecca's shadow was like trying to grow a plant in permanent darkness. Every achievement I had was measured against hers and always found lacking. Rebecca graduated top of her class at 16, Mom would say at dinner. Rebecca married so well, Dad would add, looking at me like I was already a disappointment at 14. Why can't you be more like your sister? This was the constant refrain of my childhood. I stopped trying to compete. Instead, I just tried to stay invisible. When I was 16, I met James at a coffee shop near my high school. He was 19, studying engineering at the local university, with kind eyes and a laugh that made me feel seen for the first time in my life. We talked for hours about everything: music, books, dreams, futures. We started dating secretly. My parents would have killed me for having a boyfriend before college. They had plans for me: finish high school, go to community college, maybe meet a nice man through Rebecca's social circle eventually. James wasn't in their plans, but I loved him. And for the first time in my life, someone loved me back without comparing me to Rebecca. At 17, I got pregnant. I remember taking the test in the bathroom of a CVS, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the stick. When the two lines appeared, my entire world stopped. I was terrified. But James held my hand in his dorm room and said, "Maya, we'll figure this out together. I love you. I love our baby already." I believed him. I believed in us. I told my parents on a Tuesday evening in March. Mom cried. Not sad tears, angry, ashamed tears. Dad didn't even look at me. He just kept repeating, "How could you be so stupid? How could you be so irresponsible?" Then Rebecca arrived. She'd been called in like some kind of crisis management expert. She walked into our living room calm and collected, wearing her pearl necklace and her perfectly pressed designer clothes. "There's a solution to this problem," she said softly, sitting beside me on the couch. She couldn't have children. I knew this. 3 devastating miscarriages had destroyed her chances of ever carrying a baby to term. Her marriage to Marcus was crumbling under the weight of empty nurseries and failed fertility treatments. "Let me adopt the baby," Rebecca said, taking my hand. "Maya, you're too young to be a mother. You're just 17. You haven't even graduated high school yet. I can give your child everything: the best schools, the best opportunities, the best life. You can finish school, go to college, build your future. Everyone wins." Mom nodded eagerly. "It's perfect, Maya. It keeps the baby in the family. You can still be part of their life. Just as the aunt." Dad added, "It's the responsible thing to do. For once in your life, think about someone other than yourself." James disagreed completely. When I told him about Rebecca's proposal, his face went dark. "Maya, this is our baby, our child. We can make it work. I'll get a better job. We'll find an apartment. My parents will help. You don't have to give up our baby." But my parents wore me down, week after week after week. You'll ruin your life, Maya. You're being selfish, keeping this baby. Think about what's best for the child, not what you want. Rebecca can give them everything. What can you give them? Poverty? Struggle. The pressure was relentless. Rebecca visited every day, showing me pictures of the nursery she was preparing, talking about the private schools, the college fund she'd already started. At 7 months pregnant, exhausted and convinced I was doing the right thing, I signed the adoption papers. James left town 3 days later. He said he couldn't watch me give away our child. He said it broke his heart too much. I never heard from him again. Labor lasted 19 brutal hours. Rebecca was in the delivery room the entire time, holding my hand, whispering encouragement. You're so brave, Maya. You're doing such a selfless thing. You're giving me the greatest gift anyone could ever give. When my daughter was born at 3:37 a.m. on a Thursday morning, they let me hold her for exactly 4 minutes. She had dark hair like mine and tiny fingers that wrapped around my thumb with surprising strength. Her eyes were closed, but I could see James in her face, his nose, his chin. I kissed her forehead and tried to memorize everything about her, her smell, her weight, the little sounds she made. Then the nurse gently took her from my arms and handed her to Rebecca. My sister cradled my daughter, our daughter, and looked at me with tears streaming down her face. But her smile was different than it had been before. It wasn't grateful or humble. It was victorious. She leaned close to me while the nurses were busy with my post-delivery care, and she whispered so only I could hear, "She'll never know you were her real mother, Maya. She'll call me Mommy, and you'll just be Aunt Maya who visits on holidays. Thank you for giving me what I always deserved." My blood froze. "Rebecca, what are you—" "Thank you for the baby, little sister." She kissed my daughter's head possessively. "I finally got everything I wanted, everything you could never give her." Then she walked out of the room with my baby. I sobbed so hard that a nurse had to sedate me. I don't remember the rest of that night. Rebecca named my daughter Lily Marie Webb. I went to college like everyone wanted. Got a degree in elementary education. Found a job teaching 3rd grade. Built what looked like a normal life from the outside. But every single birthday, every Christmas, every Easter, every Thanksgiving, I watched Lily grow up calling someone else Mom. Rebecca kept me close not out of kindness or sisterly love, but control. She wanted me to see what I'd given up. She wanted me to remember who had won. Sunday dinners at her house became mandatory. Holidays were spent at her perfectly decorated home, always with me in the role of Aunt Maya. "Aunt Maya brought you a present, Lily. Say thank you to Aunt Maya for the nice gift. Aunt Maya, would you mind cleaning up while I put Lily to bed?" Lily was beautiful, smart and curious and creative. She had my eyes and James's smile. At age 5, she'd bring me her drawings. At age 7, she'd climb into my lap during family movie nights and fall asleep against my shoulder. "You're my favorite aunt," she'd whisper. It destroyed me every single time. And Rebecca watched it all with that same victorious smile. When Lily turned 10, something shifted. She started asking questions. "Aunt Maya, why don't you have kids of your own?" "Because I'm not married yet, sweetie." "But you'd be such a good mom." "Better than—" She stopped herself, but I knew what she'd been about to say. "Why do I look more like you than I look like Mommy?" My heart stopped. Rebecca's eyes went cold across the dinner table. "Genetics are funny that way, honey," Rebecca said quickly, her voice sharp. "You got Daddy's family genes. Now finish your dinner and stop asking so many questions." But Lily kept asking, kept noticing things. She noticed that she had my exact eye color, that we both had the same small birthmark on our left wrist, that our hands looked identical. At 12 years old, Lily found a box in Rebecca's attic while looking for old Halloween decorations. Lily called me on a Tuesday afternoon, her voice shaking and tearful. "Aunt Maya, can you come over right now? Mom's at work and I need to talk to you." "Please." "It's important." I drove to Rebecca's house with my heart pounding. Something in Lily's voice had sounded desperate, broken. When I arrived, Lily was sitting in the middle of the living room floor, surrounded by papers spread out like evidence at a crime scene. Birth certificate with my name listed as mother, adoption papers with my signature, hospital records from the night she was born, medical history forms with my health information. "You're my real mom," Lily whispered, looking up at me with tears streaming down her face. "Aren't you?" I couldn't lie anymore, not to her, not when she was looking at me with those eyes my eyes, pleading for the truth. "Yes," I said, my voice breaking. "Yes, I am." She collapsed into my arms, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. "Why didn't you keep me? Didn't you want me? Was I not good enough?" "No, baby, no," I cried, holding her tight. "I wanted you more than anything in the entire world, but I was 17 years old. I was scared. They convinced me I couldn't give you the life you deserved. They said I'd be selfish to keep you. Mom Rebecca, she told me you were too young to care about me, that you gave me up because you didn't want the responsibility of a baby. She said you chose your freedom over me. My sister had poisoned my daughter against me for 12 years. That's not true," I said, cupping her face in my hands. "I loved you from the moment I knew you existed. I loved you so much that I believed giving you to Rebecca was the right thing to do. I thought I was giving you a better life." "Then why did you let her take me?" Lily asked. "Why didn't you fight for me?" That question shattered every piece of my heart that was still intact. Because I had believed the lies. I had believed I wasn't enough. Rebecca came home 2 hours later to find us in the living room, papers scattered everywhere. Both of us red-eyed from crying. "What the hell is going on here?" Her voice was ice cold. "You lied to me," Lily said, standing up to face her. "My entire life you lied to me about who I am." "I protected you," Rebecca shot back. "Maya was a child when you were born. She couldn't raise you. She couldn't give you anything." "You manipulated me into giving her up," I said, standing beside Lily. "You used my fear and my age against me. You made me think I was doing what was best for her when really you just wanted her for yourself." "I gave her everything," Rebecca screamed, her perfect composure finally cracking. "A beautiful home, the best education, dance lessons, piano lessons, everything. What could you have given her? Poverty, struggle, a mother who was still a child herself?" "Love," I whispered. "I would have given her unconditional love, not lies, not manipulation, not a childhood built on deception." Lily was crying again. "I want a DNA test. I want proof." Rebecca's face went completely white. "Absolutely not. I am your mother. I raised you. That's what matters." "Why are you afraid of the DNA test?" Lily challenged, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "If you're telling the truth, if Maya really isn't my biological mother, what are you afraid of?" Silence. We did the test the next day. Results came back 1 week later, 99.9% match. I was Lily's biological mother. The legal battle that followed was brutal and heartbreaking. Rebecca's expensive lawyers argued that I had legally and voluntarily given up my parental rights, that I had signed away my daughter 13 years ago, that ripping Lily away from the only mother she'd ever known would be psychologically damaging and cruel. My lawyer, who worked pro bono because she believed in my case, argued coercion and fraud. That I had been a minor when I signed those papers, pressured by my entire family. That Rebecca had obtained my daughter through manipulation and lies. The courtroom battles went on for 8 months. My parents testified against me. They said I was unstable, irresponsible, trying to destroy the family. Rebecca cried on the witness stand, talking about all the sacrifices she'd made raising Lily. But Lily testified too. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Morrison. She had kind but tired eyes like she'd seen too many family tragedies play out in her courtroom. She looked at Lily, now 13 years old, sitting in the witness chair looking small and scared. "Lily, sweetheart," Judge Morrison said gently, "this is your life we're deciding here. I need to know what you want. Where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with?" Lily looked at me, then at Rebecca, then back at the judge. "I want the truth," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "I want to know my real mom, Maya. I want her to be able to be my mother, not just my aunt. But I also—" Her voice cracked with emotion. "Rebecca raised me. She's not perfect, and she lied to me, but she also loved me. She was there for every scraped knee, every school play, every nightmare. She's not all bad." The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she made her ruling. Joint custody. I would have Lily during the school week. Rebecca would have weekends. Lily would go to therapy to process everything, and Rebecca would be required to attend family counseling sessions. Rebecca was furious. She filed an appeal immediately. She lost. My parents disowned me completely. "You're tearing this family apart," my mother said when I called to tell her about the custody arrangement. "Rebecca tore it apart 13 years ago when she manipulated me into giving up my daughter," I replied. "I'm just fighting for the truth." She hung up on me. I haven't spoken to either of my parents in 3 years. Rebecca and I have a civil but cold relationship. We exchange necessary information about Lily's school schedules, doctor appointments, permission slips, but we don't have real conversations. The trust is completely destroyed. Marcus, Rebecca's husband, actually reached out to me privately 6 months after the custody was finalized. He apologized. He said he'd had no idea about the manipulation, about what Rebecca had said to me in the hospital. He said he was considering divorce. They separated last year. Lily is 16 years old now. She lives with me during the school week and spends weekends with Rebecca. It's messy. It's complicated. It's not perfect. But Lily knows the truth now. She's in therapy, working through the complex emotions of having two mothers, one who gave birth to her and was forced to give her up, and one who raised her, but built that relationship on lies. Some days are harder than others. Some days Lily is angry at me for giving her up in the first place. Some days she's angry at Rebecca for lying. Some days she's just angry at the whole situation. But we're healing, slowly. Last Mother's Day, Lily gave me a card. Inside, in her careful handwriting, she'd written, "Tamaya, you gave me life twice. Once when I was born and once when you told me the truth. Thank you for fighting for me even when it was hard. I love you, Mom." I cried for an hour after reading it. Rebecca still hasn't forgiven me for destroying her family. As she puts it, maybe she never will. But my daughter calls me Mom now instead of Aunt Maya. And after 16 years of being kept at arm's length from my own child, that means everything. Here's what I learned from this nightmare. Blood doesn't automatically make you family. Love does, but lies destroy both. Rebecca gave Lily material things, a beautiful home, expensive education, opportunities I couldn't have provided at 17. But she also gave her a foundation built on deception and manipulation. I gave Lily something different, the truth, even when it was painful, even when it cost me my relationship with my parents, even when it meant months of legal battles and financial stress. Some people will call me selfish for disrupting Lily's life after 13 years. Maybe they're right. But my daughter deserved to know who she was, where she came from. Why did she had my eyes and my hands and my smile? And I deserved the chance to be her mother, not just the woman who gave birth to her, but the woman who fought for her when the truth finally came to light. If you're reading this and you've lost someone to lies, to manipulation, to family members who chose control over love, keep fighting for the truth. It's worth it. Even when it breaks you, even when it costs you everything, even when the people who were supposed to love you turn against you, the truth is always worth fighting for. Thank you for staying until the end of my story. If this touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe for more real stories about family, betrayal, and finding your way back to yourself. And remember, you deserve relationships built on honesty, not lies. Take care of yourself. You matter.